It's Friday, January 9th, 2026 at 2 p.m. Meeting of the land use working group. I call the meeting to order. Let's start with a roll call. Now I must find this here. Here we go. Rob Almeida is excused. Keith Bergman. Present. Paul Böhm. Present. Matt Boger is not here. Mary Hartman. Here. Judith Long. Here. Tracy Morano is excused. Mark Martinez. Here. Linda Miller. Here. And Sven Weber here. So we have a quorum. Let's go to public comments, and that's public comments for items not on the agenda. Any public comments? None in the room. Nobody online. Let's move to approve of the meeting minutes. Shannon sent them out yesterday. Any comments? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second. Okay, let's do the round again. Let's start with Keith Bergman. Hi. Paul Böhm. Yes. Mary Hartman.
Aye.
Judith Long.
Aye.
Mark Martinez.
Understand. I didn't get a chance to look.
Okay, Linda Miller.
Yes.
Sven Weber, yes. So here was approved. And then we go straight to the reports from subgroups. So let's first of all, I'm aware that yes, we had the holidays, but right after the holidays, seems all subgroups started to pick it up again, and all three of them had meetings this week, and it appears that there's several more meetings scheduled for the remainder of January. We will have a discussion later on future meeting schedule, but we are getting to the point where we have to bring the information together here in this group, reporting back to this group really concretely what are the proposals, what are the options, have a joint discussion, and be able to just bring back a report to the select board on where we stand on the different options here. Forerunner, I think, is time critical. We all know is everything around MCI. So that unfortunately that group is on a stronger time limit there. On the other side, there are also some kind of time critical things brewing on the municipal consolidation side. But we can discuss that later. So I think it's this piece where in the next 4 to maximum 6 weeks, we have to bring this together to a joint view, and we will propose under agenda item 6 to have a few more meetings of the general group to use for the time to bring the information together. That we, yeah.
Yeah, I heard you say 4 to 6 weeks.
You want to have it shorter?
Yeah,
Okay, let's discuss that under the meeting schedule.
okay.
And let's see, I think would be good for each subgroup in the current reporting back is where they stand time-wise and what the different groups think, how much time they need to get to the point that they can list the short list of options and the order of options for the recommendation. Yeah. So I mentioned MCI and Linda is big on the screen, so perhaps I call on the public works subgroup first to see where you're standing and what we need to know.
Yes, well, in terms of progress, I think we're making a little progress on looking at comparable facilities with the Public Works Department. We visited a couple of facilities, Arlington, Bedford, and Lexington, which I think were very useful to see in terms of comparisons to our facilities in Concord. We had a meeting earlier this week, had a bit of technical difficulties, but we did get some public feedback from the Walden Woods group. I think we may have received additional information and some public input from other groups even today. So I think that there is some interest out there and following our process, which is welcome, and some suggestions as well. In terms of creating our list, as we'd mentioned, we had about 7 candidate spots. I think 2 of those are probably viewed somewhat remotely at this point. So the slimming down of the process is moving forward, but unfortunately we haven't had a chance to really dig in with sort of a more quantitative approach to identifying our candidates. And we will be meeting a week from today, will be our next session, and hopefully all of our members will be present, and we can move forward on that regard. We do have some pretty good pricing information on renovation and new builds based on square footage. Some from the Acton documents and some from others. Seems like there's a pretty narrow band of information, primarily because there's a narrow band of consultants that seem to be working in this field. So we're getting a little bit more help on that front. So I don't know, perhaps Alan or Russ would like to comment as well.
Yeah, hi, Alan Cathcart, Director of Public Works. Yeah, Linda provided, I think, a good overview of what I've heard. I think she's been very helpful in trying to organize the information, and I know that the matrix or your screening is something which will just require the entire group. Obviously, with just 3 people, it's important they're all present. So I think that's what we're sort of looking towards maybe next week. But I think there's a framework there. So just to be clear, Public Works it's not an entire universe of opportunities. So, it's a fairly small pool, but, they all are getting vetted. And I would say that the interest that we're getting from, some of the general public are groups, there's an ag community, there's the Walden Woods community. They're all sort of at least aware of the efforts, and I think that's going to help inform, at least, part of the discussion and prioritization. But, as we've said, everything is on the table until it's off, and we're still on that, things are still on the table, and I think the recommendations is when it gets a little bit more focused. So I don't know, for us, you have anything you want to offer?
So from a timing perspective, Linda, what do you think? When do you reach the point that you could A, narrowing it down on the options, and B, have an order of the option?
I'm going to defer. I just feel I feel like I think Alan put it well. I think we have the framework. We need to make sure we have resources from the participants on the subcommittee to be able to, to nail this. I don't think this is going to be rocket science. If it is, Alan's there to help us with that, with Russ, but I don't think it is. And we just, I have, just to get commitments over the next couple of weeks to move this, forward, get it across the proverbial, end zone or whatever it's
Yes,
called.
sorry to put so much pressure. So the
Yeah,
next
it's,
meeting is.
I would have thought we'd be
Yeah.
a bit further along than we are, and and I would prefer not to commit when I
So
don't
the next
feel I
meeting is
have
next
the
week.
ability to commit. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Next meeting Friday, I can't dial into that meeting. Judith, can you?
What time?
What time is it next week Friday, Linda?
I believe 1 o'clock, I think, as far as I know, we can all do from 1 to 2 o'clock on Friday.
Yeah, so just make sure if Judith can't make dial in that perhaps you let Judith and me know did you do progress and how much more work is to be done from your side? Did we get a judgment after that meeting on your timeline? Mark Martinez also has a question here.
Linda, is there any update on, sort of just rough square footage? And I guess part of that is water and sewer in or out? Are they still combined? And then total acreage, have you guys made any progress on maybe what total acreage is sort of within your band of reasonability?
I think Russ could probably answer those questions.
Is Russ on?
Rest on the phone?
Oh, maybe not.
Yeah, I'm here. It took a minute to unmute. I'm remote today. Yeah, I think I don't have the data in front of me, but we were able to squeeze down the acreage, but still hovering around 80,000 square feet for building infrastructure. In total, it could be a couple different buildings, could be one building. So that's where we are on the square footage. Acreage, I forgot the number, and Linda, you may have it in front of you. I think I came up with like 8.9 or something like that we were using over at MCI instead of the 14 that the 2020 study had. Those are the numbers right now, I believe. And that's combined, that's not separated. I hadn't separated them yet.
And then, Linda, not to spoil the report, but can you give us any highlight on where you think the industry is as far as per square foot pricing?
Yeah, that's again, that's a pretty broad question. We're looking at what the other cities and towns have spent to build their facilities, which are similar in scope and size. And I think it's between $30 and $40 million. Alan, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, those are it's a wide spread, but I think, Mark, if you kind of hold off till we get it more accurate before we start sharing numbers would be helpful. I'd also offer that with the tour that we took, one thing we did learn is that every system we talk to is very sort of committed to getting public works together, not separating wherever possible. I can share Acton is an Acton water district, so they're not, but the other systems in Bedford, Lexington, Arlington, they were all about bringing their forces together to be more efficient. That was a common theme in all the designs. The other common theme is that, well, that's the centralized campus for equipment and personnel and public functions. They all have other sites that are used much like we do. We're not unusual in that there's other sites like landfills, compost sites, staging areas. So when you think of public works, this committee is focused primarily on the campus to house equipment, office staff, and personnel. Just one of the lessons that I was, affirmed what we're doing and how we've done it in the past. But other than that, Mark, I'd say we'll come up with some numbers at least. I will also volunteer. It was interesting to see some of the older facilities were very well maintained and preserved and functional, and they're now 20 years into it, and they're looking at, minor needs. But we've also seen a site that was 10 years old and a relatively new site, and it was interesting to see how they've all, different phases in their life cycle, what they look like. That was kind of telling too.
Hey, I know you haven't done the final financials, but do you have a sense of the MCI renovation number versus the new build number? Have you worked through those numbers?
No, we haven't. We are doing a spatial analysis of the MCI site, but that's the only additional information we think we'll have at this point there.
But the MCI number would be a renovation number, it would be a new build number, right?
That's, I think it's premature to say that. I think if you talk to DCAM, they want to see if there's any, flexibility in how that campus might be, sort of developed. But yeah, I think, Paul, the focus we've looked at is redevelopment of existing facilities.
Right.
But there could even be a hybrid. It really, that's to be determined.
Okay, got
Are
it.
you talking about the wastewater treatment plant
No,
specifically?
I'm talking about the physical structures, buildings, storage, office space.
But
Yes.
So I guess as a follow-up, that the structure we're talking about is that if you think about the wastewater, it's really the first building. I guess if you're look at the wastewater on your left, it would be on the right, right? That immediate.
Yeah, there are two structures inside the wall that we're particularly interested in on the right as you're going towards, on the access road into the wastewater treatment plant. And there's also another structure to the left, which could also be repurposed as well.
Yeah.
Any other questions here? No? All right, let's pick then on the public safety group. I make first a start and then Judith can fill in. So we had a meeting yesterday. We toured today Lexington Police and Lexington Fire buildings. The police is a year old, quite brand new. Fire building was finished in 2021, just with COVID. So two quite new buildings. Got a good sense of at least what the state of the art could look like, and good sense of what money can buy you. Let's frame it that way. It informs definitely us on how we look at the pricing for the different scenarios. We made progress on the metrics, but we will have another session coming up for the working group on finalizing hopefully the evaluation metrics. But there's not so many options to play with that. So if you look through the options, it's a status quo, which at the moment doesn't appear it's working specifically not in West Concord. But that status quo there seems to be not feasible for anything the town will face going forward. Then you could have what we call kind of some kind of a hybrid model, build something new in West Concord, either on campus or somewhere else, and then renovate in the one shape or the other, the Walden campus. We're definitely missing some understanding about the renovation cost of the current Walden campus for fire and police. And then the other scenario would be then to more or less have they build two buildings new, one the West Concord and then a building here. We have also the scenario on it making one big central campus, but the big disadvantage of that is the logistics and the response time for fire. That's how you would do that. And did I miss off another option?
No.
No.
You have all those options here, fire and police together, or?
No, it would be, so in a certain way, if you look at least at the main block of option, it is that West Concord would be the main fire headquarter,
Right,
and the police would be the main headquarter would be here on this side, with a sub for the fire. There's also the scenario that there's two buildings or two locations close by, but in a certain way, you have to think about the fire headquarters, West Concord, and the police headquarters here.
here being the Walden campus, or?
So either by renovation of the Walden campus, or let's say you pick another lot. You don't need a lot of acreage to do that. Pick another lot and place it there. Build new.
So do you have costs to build new or to renovate the existing?
So we had assumptions. We got today some reconfirmation of the numbers.
Very good.
They're somewhere in the right order of magnitude from what we heard. It's more of a question, what's the demand with respect to square footage? The big difference definitely is if you look at fire, the trucks eat a lot of square footage, but it's not built out as office. So the per square footage for a fire building is by the per square footage cost for a fire building is by that lower than for a police building, where most of it is offices, jail cells, high secure environments, evidence rooms, and so on. So it's a different spec on a police department than you have on a fire.
So you must be making some assumptions about when you're thinking space requirements, right? As far as growth in the
Mhm.
population and the number of calls we have per, and you're sizing it for that, right? Great.
You will have to, it's otherwise, yeah.
Okay.
But, anything else to add from your end?
A couple of observations, largely based on seeing some of the newer facilities on the inside. So Sven and Mark and I were all on our first tour of a new facility today, which was the police and fire stations in Lexington. And one of the things that struck me, which you kind of know intellectually, right, that it's going to be different, it's going to be new, but you get in there, and one of the things that became more clear to me is that the change in technology associated with the apparatus, which includes everything from the trucks on up, right? The change in technology and specifications around the apparatus, as well as all of the specialized internal facilities, everything from, having locker rooms for women, locker rooms for men, the dispatch center, the changes in the number of screens you can have for a single dispatch, and all those sorts of things, made it clear to me that it would be even more difficult to renovate Walden in a meaningful way. So we can look at the Walden price per square foot and look at it from a financial point of view, but it would be increasingly difficult, I think, outside of a simple estimate, to change that building, which we've been inside, into something that approximates what seems to be the standard out there amongst other fire stations and certainly amongst our peer municipalities. So for me, I was like, wow, this would be incredibly difficult to retrofit that existing building to get it to look like something that is the new standard. So renovation for me of Walden, and this is just Judith speaking, became it sort of dropped, its stock price went down for me when we were out today. That said, I think that when we look at these other municipalities as benchmarks, we have to be very clear about what our size is, what our needs are, and to what degree do we want to add additional space to accommodate for growth. And I think it was pretty clear in Lexington, particularly in the fire station, that they have built a building that will probably not need an expansion for 30 years. That was a very growth-oriented building, which in some respects takes into account the MBTA and all these other things that we're talking about, but that was a very large building relative
Fire
to
police,
the police.
yeah.
Police, not the fire. The fire to me was more tight to current function.
Yeah.
So when we look at the benchmarks, we do need to do a fair bit of right sizing. When we get to the building committee stage for police and fire, one of their jobs will be to right size, because I also saw duplications in terms of community rooms and sort of training functionality that say isn't specific to fire. To me, there was some duplication. So thinking, for example, when we put a community room in one of these facilities, if we have a separate police, separate fire, and then maybe even a third fire station, but it would be a sub. So maybe that would be a very small room. But we look at those not just in the context of police and fire, but we also look at them in the context of how many meeting rooms we have around town, right? So just really thinking about right sizing and growth as we start to imagine the price tag, or the price tag, which, yeah, if police is running, like, I was surprised at the price tag on the police, because we've been estimating about $800 a square foot. The police priced in more at 1,000 a square foot, but highly specialized spaces. And we didn't ask, but I think it'd be really interesting to know if some of the equipment was included in that price tag. So for example, the very high density storage for evidence and all these kinds of things, that all adds to the price tag. Not sure if that was included, but it was more expensive than we thought to build police. Whereas fire is about 800 a square foot, which was consistent with Lexington, but of course they have these large areas that are really kind of open air, and they don't have a lot of, fit out on the inside. They're just kind of large spaces. So I was kind of surprised about price. So the price is probably going to be the same when we go to price whatever it is we're going to do here, if we decide to build new. But the sizing is where so if you only have two variables in the equation, one is size, one is price, then if we're going to try to be efficient, we're going to have to be very careful about space.
I have a question. Who does the dispatch for Lexington? Do they do their own dispatch?
They
Is it
currently do
regional?
their
Are they regionalized? at all?
They
They're
share
standalone?
fire, police and public works share dispatch.
Okay, but it's all just for Lexington?
Yes.
Okay, because Concord police are thinking of
A regional
hosting
station, yeah.
a regional dispatch here in Concord, so that should factor into your space requirements.
Well, and
Which was one question which came up, I raised it is where is the dispatch located?
Yeah.
Does it need to be with the police? Does it need to be with fire?
Mhm.
It appears the location is, it could be with fire, it could be with police. So if you think about where to place it, you have all the flexibility where to put this.
I think, well, when I was listening, I thought what Concord was considering was dispatching public safety police with neighboring towns, not public works and.
Yeah, but still nevertheless, is you have to think where you put the square footage
Right.
of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, is you in the puzzle piece, it could be even at, let's say, at the West Concord new fire headquarters.
Right,
Yeah, if you have more square
understand.
footage flexibility
Okay.
there, you don't need to be there, needs to be in the police building.
it doesn't, you're right.
And if you're doing it more regional, this is important information for more or less for the planning then also. If you need more square footage for it, it would be good to know early in the respective planning,
Yes,
that you know where you put that room.
I've got one more question.
Go ahead.
You mentioned that the police had more space than the fire, or they seem to have built for growth. Whereas, did I hear you correctly?
So they have,
And
There-
the fire didn't necessarily?
well,
And
so
I'm-
that's only comparing they have one police station, they have one large fire station, and then they have a smaller sub. It could be that the sub plus the main fire station add up to the same square footage. I don't know how big the sub is, but currently the police station is larger than the fire station by, I think, about 8,000 square feet. So that's under right. I think it was like 36 to.
I'm just wondering if they're building for growth or if they're building for the demand on services, especially to police departments. That would be a question I'd like to ask,
You know what, and actually,
because they are being asked to do a lot more services than just,
I think that definitely was part of their
Yeah,
answer,
okay.
actually, now that I think about it, Mark and Sven can confirm, to what degree, I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
Is that 60% of the additional
but
space?
I
don't know.
think it's a factor.
I totally agree, and they made that quite clear as well. I was wrong.
Okay,
about it.
okay,
Yeah.
good.
Want to add?
No, I mean, so the good news is that it appears that there's one architect or planning agency that sort of does all this stuff.
Mhm.
So they should be able to give us a model as to, here's our population, here's our growth, here are the number of firefighters, here are the number of police officers. And to give us, and so Lexington, and I assume all the towns will give us floor plans. So unlike MCI, where it's sort of like a blob right now, I think this is pretty concrete. And it's like, there's a way that they're doing these fire stations and police stations that they seem to have pretty, sort of figured out. So I think as far as the number of rooms, the types of rooms, the functions, I think we get relatively good data. And so I think that's great.
I think that's true, and I think one of the things that we've been playing around with, which I think has affected all of the committees, is at what point do we go and acquire additional data, right? And there were, so we came into the land use working group not knowing that we'd have any money to hire anybody, so we were all just kind of doing our good homework. And then, a couple months ago, the ARPA money kind of appeared, and then we started to imagine all kinds of fun ways we could spend that to, I say fun facetiously, but the idea is we could use some of that expert information to help us with these preliminary option identifications. But then it became also very clear that we have to produce scopes, we have to go through the procurement process, that some of these folks weren't available to do stuff. Even if we called Tecton right now, they could maybe get us something in a month, but is that going to appear in time for us to really be able to contribute to our decision making? So now we're kind of discussing, and this is later on the agenda, so I don't want to foreshadow too much, but is it better for us to think about engaging consultants? And I think what Mark's saying is to do something like just have a quick call and get a preliminary bit of numbers, which is different from having them actually do the studies, that it might be better to have the select board, if they choose to strike a building committee for public safety, and then that committee would then scope, procure, hire the consultant, and then the work that would be done would be in keeping with what it is that larger group would want to do. So getting that information to the right people at the right time and not duplicating and spending money now that might not be spent.
Let's talk on that on the other, and then the next one.
Yeah, it was just, so you mentioned that you weren't a big fan of renovating Walden for fire, for fire. What about renovating Walden for police?
Honestly, I don't even see that now, and I can't say that
Renovating Walden for any.
I can't say that I've thought about it in, a lot of detail. I do think that this is something that, should the select board again strike a new committee to just do a building committee for police and fire. If you hire Tecton will come in, they'll take a look at Walden and they will let you know. But my feeling is, based on what I saw today, it would be very difficult to retrofit Walden, even price effectively for all of the new things that the police departments have.
Yeah.
Like this they have all this internal parking, Sallyport, all this kind of stuff. It's kind of remarkable what we don't have. Not saying we need to have everything.
Let's do the subtopics work on the metrics, see where it ranks.
Yes, I'm trying to understand the options. I'm going back to the option.
Yeah.
So the option of having, the main fire station, West Concord, that's sort of on the table. The auxiliary fire station in Concord Center, that's still on the table somewhere.
Which could be at the Walden building, could be Walden building torn down on the Walden site, could be
Right.
different Walden site.
But the main police could be anywhere, but is that still an option?
Could be in the
for
Walden building.
Okay, so,
Could be at the Walden site if it's
So it
torn,
could be.
yeah.
okay. So pretty fluid. Okay.
I'm not
No
convinced. I
problem.
mean, one of the things we saw today is that parking is really a challenge.
Yeah.
So for example, the Lexington Fire Station was half of its size. They had twice as much parking than when during the renovation, now they have had, and they really are now short on parking. The police station's massively short on on parking. So, and then with Walden, I might even go further than you, Jude, to say, I'm not sure that site is usable for a footprint of building we're talking about with needed parking. Either.
Okay,
Yeah, I just wanna put it back because we're getting into, we haven't
Yeah.
filled out that part of the matter.
everybody
in
gets
the
something.
subgroup. You're doing a subgroup meeting?
You don't mind it, yeah.
What about the date though?
Yeah, so on the date, so we have another meeting in 2 weeks from now.
And
I hope that after that, we're,
We're pretty close.
which we should be pretty close.
great, good.
Yeah, and we should really do the very, I hope this is a really workshop kind of setting where we have this, so. Okay, third group,
Yeah,
municipal
yeah,
consolidation.
Yeah.
I'll provide color commentary.
Okay. Yeah, okay, as we said last time, we do have a short list of options. And I feel pretty confident that by the end of January, we will have a prioritized list of our recommendations. The financials, I'd say, are 95% done. We've got another exercise we're doing, which is more of a score and weight exercise to bring into the decision-making process, the non-quantifiable benefits. And then we're going to divvy up the report and, I think we'll be done by the end of January. That's,
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in the home stretch. I mean, the uncertainties in the financials are gonna remain uncertainties,
Right.
whether we try to tweak them or not. And, tweaking will continue until we run out of time.
right,
Right?
right.
But I think the numbers seem to be good enough to rank the options. They're not good enough to proceed to build anything, but ranking the options and indicating what new data are needed to tighten up
Yes.
those numbers that in phase 2, whatever, I think in the next phase. So I do think as far as I mean, on Monday, we're gonna have a meeting to do the scoring, to finish our pros and cons matrix, to really finalize the financials that we're gonna go forward with and to assign the report pieces. So I think by the end of January, we'll probably have a draft in pretty good shape.
So, we're realizing that we're gonna need consultants to kind of look at these numbers because, we've done a lot of research, but we're not experts.
But
We're not
we've gone as far as we
structural
can, really, and,
Yeah.
even with the staff.
So if we come out with a list of priorities with the top, say we've got 2 top, we're gonna need. We'll get into that later when we talk about timing. But I think we'd be hard pressed to put put one forward, one out of all of them.
What option?
Yeah.
Would be hard for it?
Yeah, what do you think? You ready to go with one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so who's ready to go? Okay, so we still have some work to do.
Well, there are 5 options, right? There's the status quo option, but we sell Peabody. There's renovate Peabody.
Yeah.
There's renovate Ripley. There's build a new building at Peabody, there's build a new building at Ripley, and then there's buy a new building somewhere and sell everything else. So of course, that last one creates the most revenues, it's the most financially viable. So, but we're looking at all the criteria. So I think,
Well,
we'll definitely have a number 1, whether we have a 2, 3, and 4, whether you can rank them.
yeah,
Because beyond that, it's depending on the numbers
Mhm.
and other factors. So, but I think,
and when we put our pros and cons in front of the bigger group, right, there might be a con in our number 1 that we say, wait, we should pause. I hear what you're saying.
yeah, we'll be brave.
Just
Okay,
recommendations to yourselves and on the select.
okay, that's where we are.
Okay,
So just a quick question, Paul, you say financials, what exactly pulled out of that?
Mary put together.
What are financials?
Well, I'll basically, they're inflows and outflows. there's, over 10 years, and we have a lot of numbers in both of those and various great models. You want to say more about that? And that's
Do you wanna know?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so we looked at the options and we looked at the options in two variables. One is with current zoning at the property that we might be vacating and new zoning. Okay, so for example, Ripley is zoned one way. If we were to consolidate Ripley, I'm going off in a tangent here as an example. If we were to move Ripley to, say, another building, that land there is zoned for one type of housing. If we change the zoning, obviously we unlock a lot more revenue. So we're looking at these 5 options under 2 different scenarios, meaning current zoning or more dense zoning. And then we're doing the financials. What would be the inflows from doing this option? What would be the outflows and what's the net?
And we're assuming that the excess land is used for housing. What types of housing, we're not dealing with, but
We're
But we are
simply,
dealing with
we're
zoning.
going as deep as
those zoning
zoning.
assumptions.
We go as deep as zoning. So for example, if we were to sell Peabody at the current zoning, we would probably net about $4 million. $4 to $5 million, believe it or not, that's kind of surprisingly low to me. But if we were to change the zoning, we could up that to closer to $11 million. If we change the zoning to be denser.
And
So-
so would that take a town meeting vote?
Yeah.
Yes.
The zoning change.
Yeah, the zoning will do the transfer, each transfer of every property.
Yes.
Requires, it's not that time meeting vote.
So yeah, these are all things we have to line up and talk later about what is the timing for, first of all, what do we want to bring to the town? And what's the timing for that? Okay, we're done. That's it.
Done?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So then you can go to the work plan discussion, which more or less raises or addresses the things you just brought up and what do we bring when and what is needed. Just again to frame the immediate time frame, get as soon as possible to a summary of the official phase 1 of the charter. Which is the results out of the 3 subgroups and what that means and what the options and the order and recommendation of the options are. That's one. We also have a town meeting coming up. We all discussed already that there might be a need for future consultants and budget needs. Right now, the CFO it prepares his placeholder article that if we want to have a budget for consultants for one or all of the 3 work streams that need to be done sooner or later, that we can pop it in. We have to discuss that about it, like what is needed, what kind of consultant, what kind of spending is needed.
Where
for
would
next
where
year.
would the funds come from? The money, where would the money come from?
Well, you put it in an article in town meeting, it comes from the taxpayer,
Yeah, but what source? Would it be free cash?
That'd be free cash.
It'd have to be, is it free cash or general
It's-
stabilization? Okay,
yeah.
it's in our, it's
Yeah, it's,
it's something we need to address.
we need to address because we cannot run dry next year, the town should not run dry next year.
Yeah.
To say, it's okay, we identify
Okay.
and we prioritize and say the town needs to do this urgently, and then there's no funds, yeah.
We have the 150 ARPA, right?
That's,
Okay, so
yeah.
do we have a budget? At all for how much we think we might need if we go to town meeting and how much we might
That's,
spend by the end of this year?
that, we have to come to that now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Sure.
So with that, I think it's while you're doing your final work in your subgroups. Yeah, it's important that the subgroups say, okay, let's think about fiscal year 27. What is needed and what kind of budget would be needed if there's work done to bring this forward? And what if there is some kind of money
Okay.
request
Okay,
from the respective subgroups?
okay,
Yeah,
good.
But part of that planning, if you're talking about the sort of phase 2, is sort of sequencing. So we have 3 work streams right now, and don't we have collectively figure out what goes first? I mean, we can't do everything at once, right?
No,
What's
we
the
can't,
highest priority thing?
we can't, but at
And
the
then we
moment,
need funding for
the
that.
timing is so tight that we at least have to think at the moment for each subgroup is, if your work, if the subgroup goes forward in fiscal year 27, what money do you need? So if you're then in February saying, okay, we only go forward with one option and that costs, let's say, 200,000 on consultant work, then that's the number that it's put into the placeholder.
But are we likely to proceed with 3 subgroups moving over? Or are we likely to proceed with some?
I would hope that we are having some prioritization, but some stuff might be just prioritized by how things are happening. It's and
For planning purposes, it's more conservative and safer to assume we're moving forward to 3.
so just for identifying the number.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're saying, okay, you move forward with option, with a certain option you prefer, let's say your option 1, you just said, is what is the consultant budget or the budget that's needed for fiscal year 27?
Yeah.
If the whole group in February says, we are not doing it, this is prioritized 3 years out, that number don't need to be put forward to town meeting. But if you're not identifying the number, we're sitting here in April and say, oh, we need money, but now it's too
Okay,
late
so
to put
you
it
need a
into.
high number before the warrant closes. And then we can come in with whatever we really think at
Yes.
town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Just right now, we need a placeholder. It's there, and we can always pull the whole argument.
Yeah.
If
Or you
nothing is
can come
needed.
in lower. You can't come in higher.
You can't come in higher.
Okay.
To Paul's point though, if we, one of the things we're really gonna try to do though is identify prioritization. In other words, okay, we love all 3, but we understand all 3, it's not a viable financial plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you
At the
need to
same
go in a capital plan. This is not a capital article. This is an article.
Oh, no, it's not, but the work that we need to commission has to lead to firm capital numbers.
You're right.
Fiscal 28.
That's right.
Or the decision is the capital spendings are in 29 or 20 or 30.
But
So let's say.
there will
Or
be some,
27. I mean,
Yeah.
we could, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we're talking
there
about-
will be some weighting and judgment to say, gee, based on what we've done, we really think, you know, sort of. This is in the worst shape and needs to be addressed first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the task back to the subgroups.
Good.
With respect to potential budget needs for fiscal year 27.
Yeah.
Then I'm just blanking, there was something else. Judith, I'm sure you know what we're missing in here.
Oh, I don't. Remarkably, unusually,
Yeah, no, that we have, so the idea is how do we bring now back the work of the subgroups into the full
Yeah.
larger group?
Yeah.
So we have to schedule meetings of the larger group where literally we have, let's say, one meeting where 1, maximum 2 of the subgroups are presenting what they did, their work, their recommendation, where questions can be asked. Hopefully there's some further participation from the public they can learn about it, you get more feedback. Yeah,
If it would be possible, I would prefer getting even a draft report
Yeah.
or draft,
before that.
so we can take a look at it.
Yeah.
And have sort of preparatory sort of questions ready to go.
Yeah.
What, what?
So before
So
that
if-
specific
The
meeting.
next step is, we're gonna meet, we're gonna have a report, then hopefully we're gonna present the report, I guess, internally or among our group.
Yes, I
Wouldn't
think,
be a public document.
which will be separate from, by the way, we still need to do a Q2 report to the select board, but that will be something different. But yes, I think the idea is hopefully to have, if all the subgroups can have a draft by the end of January, then hopefully we can have a consolidated draft. Shouldn't take too long, magic of AI, right? Like that we can bring that together in the first week of February and then circulate it, knowing it's a draft, just circulate it amongst ourselves. And then we could start having, I think, Sven, we thought maybe we'd have 2 meetings of the full group in February. The subgroup meetings should be over, right? So that's the happy news. The subgroup meetings should be done. So 2 meetings in February, where in the first meeting, because of the MCI deadline, we were thinking that the Public Works group would go first. So we'd have them go, say, in the second week of February. And then we do 1 more meeting in February where we could conceivably do municipal consolidation and public safety together, or maybe they each need their own one, but I'm not sure that anybody wants to have 3 meetings. But the idea is that each of the groups would briefly present their work, and then the rest of the group would get a chance to ask questions about their priorities and options and so forth, so that we really have a chance to discuss what each of the subgroups have done. That's the idea.
And that would lead into the larger group. Then making sort of umbrella
Yeah,
priorities.
because
umbrella.
the larger group needs to understand the work product of each subgroup.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the exercise. If the larger group understands the work of the subgroup.
And a
The
chance.
challenge is the timing, and you brought up is that the public works MCI work stream is more pressing.
Yeah.
So that is now the time where we can discuss this, is that beginning of February, is that too late for discussing public works, but on the other hand, we know that they still have some work to
Well,
be
when we
done.
discuss it with the larger group, we're not gonna change it, are we? We're just,
It could be,
It's less likely,
Yeah.
but there may be somebody may have some great thought that would happen.
and perhaps Mark comes up with a super idea, you haven't thought about it,
that's right.
and that throws the whole thing in limbo and it looks different.
Sure. One comment, so I think it was part of some homework I had to do for the subgroup, but, private-public partnerships are a reality. And are a model now being used that wasn't used 5 to 10 years ago. Number one, so prices come down, some were a magnitude of 20-25%, that route. And then secondly, it was reported to us that, as far as state aid and funding and help. Unfortunately, there was no help, if you will, from a financial perspective. It was these towns, or more importantly, I guess the taxpayers footing these bills.
So by public-private or private-public partnership, is that a way to circumvent procurement?
No, it's a way
What's the
to,
advantage?
the advantage is, you're not talking about prevailing wage,
That's
you're
what I
not
meant.
talking about, some of
That's what I meant.
the hurdles that the municipality would take.
That's tricky.
I'm not judging whether it's tricky or not, all I'm saying is that there are other municipalities doing it. So I was
The
asked,
village municipal building.
so I was asked to take a look at it, and the answer is, put your politics aside, it's an option, that's all.
So who's done this? Who can we talk to find out how they did?
Drew, I can connect you with people.
So, yeah, but that.
I mean, if you want like specific towns, I could do that.
But that doesn't really change at the moment, to work for to bring phase 1 to the end. There's something that we should potentially look more into phase 2 or give it a recommendation to dig deeper.
I think it's just something you flag.
Yeah,
So I think to Alan's.
No, I'm all for it. Let's try to figure out a way to get the work done at the least cost. I'm all for that. And with the same quality, right? And if public-private partnerships are the way to do that, then we should definitely look into it.
There a way to do it.
There are a way to do it.
And so I think part of the report is, we're gonna make a bunch of recommendations and I'll make judgment and like this, just flag the issue.
yes,
We can flag contacts and, what have you, as to us doing our job to give some higher being or some higher board, just more options. Like Alan was saying, right now, I think we're just putting options on the table. And that's an option I think should be on the table, whether it's good or not for contract.
So we're putting recommendations on the table for the select board.
Mm.
We're not just throwing out, we're coming up with across all the 3 work groups. maybe Public Works is the most important because of MCI, but maybe MCI involves other things, and it does. So I'm just, in terms of report to the select board, not whatever form that is that a February thing where the chairs present the entire
No.
set of recommendations? I'm just asking you.
Yeah, I think the way we envisioned it when we wrote the charge was that in February, you'd come and give us what's the update of the recommendations from the subcommittees. And
Right.
you wouldn't have integrated it yet into like the timing and how
Right,
to fund
but-
these things and what.
But it is the
comes from each other.
recommendations of the,
But the report on the subcommittees.
Yes.
Yeah,
right, okay, just.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, and then when we're all done, we might have something more than that, which includes timing and funding and. What would be the right mechanism to,
prioritization across the different
yes, yes.
subgroups and so on.
And it might be, and outline the work that still needs to be done. I heard building committee, that's one idea.
Well, yeah, the next steps.
Right, next
Next
steps,
steps.
exactly. Okay,
Okay, so,
I have a question about the report.
Yeah.
Based on, so, we're discussing the outline report on Monday, and it looks a lot like the outline we put out. But is the report, I'm trying to normalize, of course, the three groups, are we talking about a lot of narrative or bullets? What does the report look like in your mind to keep it concise? 'Cause I don't want to be writing tons of narrative if everybody's doing,
I would
I
start,
love it.
I would start with bullets.
Okay.
Let's start with bullets,
Good.
and
good to
because
know.
I think we're gonna have to try to like really. Keep it short, right? Like we're really gonna have to distill, and I think if we have narrative, you're just gonna.
Good, no, that's a-
the AI can always do the bullets in text.
Which AI?
And then you can tell AI to convert the text back in bullets.
If we all use the same AI platform, the report will be written by the same.
It does in repetition, but I'm already a pretty
So-
sophisticated user.
I think
Yeah.
visuals are good too,
Yeah.
a lot of information.
Okay, so everyone
Yeah.
Yep,
start with
okay.
bullets and we take it from there.
Okay, good.
So again, future meetings, is that what like Judy and I started thinking about? Having starting with beginning of February, 2 sessions where more or less the subgroups inform and bring the rest of the whole group. Up to date on their results and what came out. Is that a timeline that works for everyone?
And do we think 2 meetings is gonna like?
If we're in good shape by the end of January.
Yeah.
Yeah, then it should work fine.
Yeah.
I don't know, is 2 meetings enough?
Well, that's what I'm concerned is like, so if we do an hour and a half, which seems to be our meeting length. Is that enough time to talk, to have the whole committee hear the Public Works Group's recommendations and to have time to chat? Is an hour and a half enough? And if we only do 2 meetings in February, that means if we had a 2-hour meeting, it would be 1 hour for municipal consolidation, some of which is probably gonna need to be an executive session. And then 1 hour for public safety might not be enough, but I really don't wanna add meeting, or we have a super day. Like, have a super day where you take a half day and,
I think
Do
super
all
day
three.
is you're then exhausted at a certain point, and whoever is the last group presenter.
I would plan on 3 meetings, we may knock them off in 2, I mean,
yeah,
but I think there's gonna be a lot of comment, but you can't predict the length of these.
I agree, I
It's a lot
worry
of
that.
good discussion.
Okay.
Quick, just to understand, so there'd be 3 meetings and then there'd be another meeting to assess, so for example. If Linda said DPW is terrible, I said, and she said, for these 5 reasons, they're all new reasons. And we said, all right, gee, so I wouldn't be able to make a judgment as to prioritizing the 3 subgroups, if you will. Until understanding which.
All
each,
3, yeah.
It as far as their assessment of condition.
Yeah, I think
You know what I
but you have to have all 3, the understanding of all 3, before you can make an umbrella assessment and umbrella decision of priority.
That's almost like the beginning of, I hesitate to use the words, but phase 2, right? Like when we come together, when we bring them all together.
That's right.
February is like just getting the reports from the subgroups and having like a good in-depth hash it out.
Yeah,
And then March, we start to integrate, and that would
Okay.
be,
So let's plan on 3 meetings in February.
that's good.
Yeah, and Linda will let us know next week, Friday, how they stand. and then we see is who goes first,
Great.
okay?
We'll need a very good Google poll, doodle poll pretty soon and then.
And we can go last, I think, right, because we're the municipal consolidation.
We have,
Second.
yeah, then we can discuss that.
Good.
All right, good. So, we have 3 o'clock, we have another half an hour.
Yep.
The chairs discussed, and, came to the conclusion we yet again need an executive session. So I hope I get the wording here right.
Just read it.
Just read it.
But it's not the read, I have to reorder this, so, the two co-chairs declared at an open meeting, has detrimental effect on the negotiation position of the public body. Therefore, we enter an executive session under MGL C 30A paragraph 21A6 to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate property, and we will not return to open session.
Very good.
So. Oh,
I moved,
I got it.
I moved to go into executive session.
Second.
Second, let's do the roll call. Keith Bergman. Paul Böhm,
Aye.
Mary Hartman.
Aye.
Judith Long,
Aye.
Mark Martinez, Linda Miller,
Aye.
Ben Weber, aye.